Rich Dad, Poor Dad is a 1997 book written by Robert Kiyosaki and Sharon Lechter. It advocates the importance of financial literacy, financial education, financial independence, and building wealth through investing in assets, real estate investing, starting and owning businesses, as well as increasing one's financial intelligence, financial IQ. The core of the book is framed around two contrasting influences that Kiyosaki had while growing up. He refers to one as his poor dad, who is his biological father, a man who was highly educated, held a PhD, and was the superintendent of the Hawaii State Department of Education. Despite his education and career, Kiyosaki's poor dad struggled financially. In contrast, his rich dad, who is actually the father of his childhood best friend, was a businessman who never finished 8th grade but became a wealthy man through his entrepreneurial and investing ventures. The book is structured around 6 main lessons that Kiyosaki learned from his rich dad regarding wealth and financial management. 1. The rich don't work for money. This lesson focuses on the mindset that the rich work to learn, not for money, and that one should focus on gaining skills and experiences that lead to financial opportunities. 2. Why teach financial literacy? It emphasizes the importance of understanding money and finances, particularly how assets and liabilities work. 3. Mind your own business. This underscores the importance of focusing on your own businesses and investments, rather than solely relying on a career in a company. 4. The history of taxes and the power of corporations. It discusses how corporations can be used to protect and enhance wealth. 5. The rich invent money. This is about being creative and finding opportunities to generate income, rather than depending on traditional financial systems. Number 6, work to learn. Don't work for money. It encourages learning skills beyond those that are comfortable or initially required, thus broadening one's ability to earn and invest. The book is controversial, particularly in its approach to education and employment. Critics argue that Kiyosaki's philosophy might lead people to take unwarranted financial risks or undervalue traditional employment and education. Supporters, however, celebrate the book for challenging conventional wisdom and inspiring people to take control of their financial futures. Rich Dad, Poor Dad is often praised for its motivational qualities and its simple, accessible way of explaining complex financial concepts. It has been translated into dozens of languages and sold millions of copies worldwide, making it one of the most influential personal finance books of all time. Its success sparked a series of related books, games, and seminars about financial education, which have cultivated a dedicated following and also drawn criticism for their commercial and promotional aspects. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, authored by Robert Kiyosaki in collaboration with Sharon L. Lechter, featuring an introduction by Robert Kiyosaki, chronicles my upbringing under the guidance of 2 fathers, one affluent and educated, holding a PhD and breezing through undergraduate studies in record time, and the other, a man who never progressed beyond 8th grade. Despite both being hardworking and achieving success in their respective careers, one remained financially strained throughout his life, while the other amassed considerable wealth, leaving behind a fortune for charities and his church upon his passing, contrasting sharply with the bills left behind by the other. With contrasting viewpoints on money and success, my 2 fathers offered me a unique opportunity for discernment. Instead of blindly adhering to a singular perspective, I found myself compelled to analyze and select the path that resonated with me. This process of critical thinking proved invaluable, shaping my understanding of financial principles and their impact on one's life. One crucial lesson I gleaned from my rich dad was the power of mindset. He instilled in me the habit of reframing limitations as opportunities, emphasizing the importance of mental agility in navigating financial challenges. Conversely, my poor dad's reluctance to challenge conventional wisdom often left him stagnant in his financial journey. Observing the divergent attitudes of my fathers toward money, taxation, education, and risk-taking, among other topics, underscored the profound influence of one's thoughts on their life's trajectory. While my poor dad resigned himself to a fate of financial struggle, my rich dad consistently manifested abundance through his positive affirmations and proactive approach to wealth creation. Choosing to heed the teachings of my rich dad, I embarked on a lifelong journey of financial education. Rejecting the notion of working for money, I embraced the concept of making money work for me, a paradigm shift that empowered me to build wealth and achieve financial independence. In essence, Rich Dad, Poor Dad distills 30 years of invaluable lessons from my rich dad into 6 core principles designed to empower readers in their pursuit of financial success amidst an ever-changing world. These principles serve not as definitive answers, but as guiding lights, illuminating the path to prosperity for generations to come. Dad, can you teach me how to become wealthy? I inquired as my father lowered the evening paper. What's the reason behind wanting wealth, son? He responded. Well, today, Jimmy's family flaunted their new Cadillac and headed to their beach house for the weekend. They invited 3 friends, excluding Mike and me, labeling us as poor kids, I explained. They said that? My father's disbelief was evident. Yes, they did, I confirmed. With a silent shake of his head, my father adjusted his glasses and returned to his reading. I waited expectantly for his guidance. This was 1956, and I was 9 years old. Fate had placed me in the same public school as the affluent children whose families ran the local sugar plantation or held esteemed professions like doctors, businessmen, and bankers. On the other side of the street where my family resided lay a different world, where kids like me should have gone to school. But, due to a quirk in district lines, I ended up where I did. After grade 6, while their children moved on to private institutions, both the rich kids and I proceeded to public intermediate and high schools, no private education for either group. Finally, my father set aside the paper. Son, he began slowly, if you wish to attain wealth, you must learn the art of making money. How do I do that? I inquired eagerly. Use your wits, son, he replied with a smile that hinted either at his limit of advice or his own uncertainty. The following morning, I shared my father's wisdom with my closest friend, Mike. We too were the outliers in our affluent school, brought together by a twist of fate. A district boundary anomaly had placed us among the wealthy. What's the plan to make money? Mike asked. I'm not sure, I confessed, but will you be my partner? With a nod, Mike agreed. Thus, on that Saturday morning, Mike became my inaugural business ally. Hours of brainstorming yielded little until a revelation struck us like lightning, a concept from a science book Mike had devoured. Excitedly, we sealed our partnership with a handshake, and our venture took shape. Over the following weeks, Mike and I embarked on a neighborhood campaign, knocking on doors and requesting our neighbors to save their toothpaste tubes for us. Most adults, with puzzled expressions, agreed with a smile, while some inquired about our venture, to which we responded with playful secrecy, citing it as a business secret. As the weeks progressed, my mom grew increasingly concerned. We designated a spot next to her washing machine as our stockpile area, using a brown cardboard box once housing ketchup bottles to collect our raw materials. Our collection of used toothpaste tubes slowly accumulated. One day, my dad arrived home to find 2 9-year-old boys in the driveway, operating a makeshift production line at full tilt. White powder covered a long table where small milk cartons from school and our family's hibachi grill emitted a fiery glow. Parking his car at the foot of the driveway due to the obstructed carport, he cautiously approached, witnessing a steel pot atop red-hot coals melting down the toothpaste tubes. In those days, tubes were made of lead. Once the paint was incinerated, the tubes were liquefied in the pot. With my mom's pot holders, we poured the molten lead into milk cartons filled with plaster of Paris, creating molds for casting. What are you boys doing? My dad inquired with a cautious smile. We're doing what you told me to do. We're going to be rich. I proclaimed confidently. Yep, Mike chimed in, his grin matching mine. We're partners. Curiously, my dad asked about the plaster molds. Watch, I replied, anticipation in my voice as I carefully cracked open a mold to reveal a lead nickel. Realization dawned on my dad's face. You're casting nickels out of lead, he exclaimed. That's right, Mike affirmed proudly. We're making money. My dad smiled, shaking his head in disbelief as he gazed upon a box of spent toothpaste tubes ablaze. Amidst the white dust covering us, we sat with my dad on the front step of our house. With gentle encouragement, he explained the concept of counterfeiting, extinguishing our entrepreneurial dreams. Disheartened, Mike and I cleaned up in silence. Our business shuttered on its opening day. As we swept up the plaster powder, I mused, I guess Jimmy and his friends were right. We're just poor. But my dad, leaving us with parting words, reminded us that we were only poor if we gave up, praising our initiative and urging us to persevere. Confused but determined, we continued our cleanup until my dad mentioned Mike's father, a man reputed for his business acumen. Excited anew, we made plans to seek his mentorship. Despite his demanding schedule managing warehouses, construction, stores, and restaurants, Mike's dad agreed to meet us. Early on a Saturday morning, I headed to the other side of town, eager to embark on our next venture. That morning at 8 o'clock, Michael and I rendezvoused with his father. He was already deep into his workday, having been at it for over an hour. As I approached their modest, orderly home, his construction supervisor was just departing in his pickup truck. "Dad's tied up on the phone," Mike informed me as he opened the door. "He said to wait out back on the porch." Stepping inside, the aged wooden floor groaned beneath me, adorned with a worn mat concealing years of foot traffic. The narrow living room felt stifling, crowded with antiquated furniture that could fetch a fortune today. Two women slightly older than my own mother occupied the couch, opposite a man clad in work attire. They offered friendly smiles as Mike and I passed through, making our way towards the kitchen and the adjoining porch overlooking the backyard. "Who are they?" I inquired. "Oh, they're Dad's employees," Mike explained. "The older gentleman runs his warehouses, the ladies manage the restaurant, and the man in work clothes oversees a road project some 50 miles away. Another supervisor, handling a housing development, left before you arrived." "Does this happen often?" I asked. "Fairly regularly," Mike replied with a grin, as he pulled up chairs for us. Expressing my desire to learn about making money, Mike revealed his father's response, an enigmatic offer. His dad soon joined us on the porch, a commanding figure at 6 feet and 200 pounds. "So, you want to learn," he stated. "Work for me, and I'll teach you. Refuse, and you'll learn nothing." Despite my attempt to inquire further, his response was firm: "Take it or leave it." I opted to accept, setting aside my plans for a softball game in favor of the opportunity. Thus, on subsequent Saturdays, Mike and I found ourselves under the supervision of Mrs. Martin, diligently carrying out mundane tasks in exchange for a meager wage. The work was monotonous, and by the fourth week, I contemplated quitting. However, Mike reassured me that his father anticipated this and encouraged me to meet with him when ready. Feeling somewhat betrayed, I confronted Mike about the situation, only to learn that his father had a unique teaching style, preferring actions over words. As promised, I prepared to meet with Mike's dad the following Saturday, hoping for some clarity on my predicament. I braced myself to confront him, feeling fully prepared. Even my biological father, whom I affectionately refer to as my poor dad, was incensed with him. He believed that my affluent father was flouting child labor regulations and ought to be investigated. My educated father advised me to insist on what I deserved, no less than 25 cents per hour. On the other hand, my poor dad instructed me that if a raise wasn't granted, I should promptly resign. At 8 o'clock on Saturday morning, I found myself standing before the same weather-beaten door of Mike's house. "Take a seat and wait your turn," Mike's father instructed as I entered, before disappearing to his cramped office adjacent to a bedroom. Scanning the room, I couldn't spot Mike anywhere, which left me feeling uneasy. I cautiously settled down beside the two women who had been present 4 weeks prior. They greeted me with smiles and made space for me on the couch. As time dragged on, frustration simmered within me. The two women had come and gone after meeting with him half an hour earlier. An elderly gentleman had also departed after a brief 20-minute conversation. The house now seemed deserted, leaving me stranded in the dim, musty living room on a glorious Hawaiian morning, awaiting a miserly figure who exploited children. I could hear him bustling about in his office, chatting on the phone, blatantly disregarding my presence. I was on the verge of storming out when something compelled me to stay. Finally, at precisely 9 o'clock, Rich Dad emerged from his office without a word, gesturing for me to enter his dingy workspace. "I gather you want a raise, or you'll quit," he remarked as he swiveled in his chair. "Well, you're not holding up your end of the bargain," I blurted out, my voice trembling with emotion. Confronting an adult was an intimidating prospect for a 9-year-old. "You promised to teach me if I worked for you. I continued, fighting back tears. And I have worked for you. I've toiled diligently, sacrificing my baseball games, but you've reneged on your word. You've imparted no wisdom. You're a fraud, just as the townsfolk believe. You're driven by greed, neglecting your employees, making me wait, showing me no respect. I'm just a child, and I deserve better treatment. Rich Dad reclined in his swivel chair, hands clasped beneath his chin, silently observing me. Now, Pat, he began after a moment, in less than a month, you sound like many of my former employees. What? I interjected, puzzled by his remark. Ignoring my confusion, I pressed on with my grievances, accusing him of cruelty and negligence. I am teaching you, Rich Dad responded softly. But what have you taught me? Nothing, I retorted angrily. You haven't even spoken to me since I agreed to work for peanuts, 10 cents an hour. I ought to report you to the authorities for violating child labor laws. My father works for the government, you know. Ah, now you sound like the rest, Rich Dad remarked with a hint of amusement. Many have left or been dismissed. So, what do you have to say? Speak up. Summoning a newfound courage, I insisted, how can you claim you haven't taught me anything when you've barely acknowledged my presence in 3 weeks of labor? Does teaching equate solely to verbal instruction? Rich Dad inquired with a knowing smile. That's how schools teach, but life teaches differently. Life doesn't lecture, it nudges. Each nudge is an opportunity to learn, to wake up to something new. Most people resist, but a few embrace it, understanding that life's nudges are lessons in disguise. I struggled to grasp his words. Life nudges us all, Rich Dad continued. Some surrender, some resist, and some, like you, fight. A wealthy father rose from his seat and aimed at the weathered, creaky window that needed repair. If you grasp this lesson, he imparted, you'll mature into a wise, prosperous, and content individual. Fail to do so, and you'll spend your days faulting your job, low wages, or your boss for your woes. You'll yearn for a miraculous breakthrough to alleviate your financial burdens. Glancing to ensure my attention, Rich Dad and I locked eyes, exchanging unspoken messages. Eventually, I broke the gaze, acknowledging his wisdom. I realized I had been blaming him despite seeking enlightenment. You see, Rich Dad continued, you're either fighting or surrendering whenever life tests you. If you choose the latter, you'll lead a cautious existence, always waiting for a moment that never arrives, only to fade into obscurity, surrounded by friends who admired your safety. Once more, our eyes met, communicating volumes in silence. You've been challenging me, I confronted. Some might argue, Rich Dad countered with a grin, that I've merely introduced you to life's flavors. What flavors? I retorted, still simmering with resentment. You boys, Rich Dad remarked, are the first to seek financial wisdom from me. Out of my 150 employees, not one has inquired about money. They seek employment and paychecks, not knowledge. Thus, they spend their prime years toiling for money without comprehending its essence. Captivated, I absorbed his words. When Mike mentioned your desire to learn, Rich Dad continued, I crafted a lesson akin to reality. Lectures alone wouldn't suffice. I had to let life nudge you a bit. Why pay us a mere dime? I inquired, masking my annoyance. To prompt introspection, he chuckled. What's the lesson in working for 10 cents an hour? I probed. That you perceive me as cheap, he replied, amused. But if you persist in blaming me, you'll learn naught. Acknowledge your role, and you'll evolve. But what options do I have? I countered. Quit or demand more, he stated. Yet most opt for the former, seeking greener pastures without realizing that money alone won't resolve their plight. So what's the solution? I pressed. Accept this token payment and glean wisdom, he advised. Many settle for paychecks, unaware that true change begins within. I pondered, comprehending Rich Dad's teachings. So what truly resolves the issue? I reiterated. This, he tapped my head gently, the mindset. It's what sets the rich apart from the rest. And in that moment, Rich Dad elucidated the perspective that propelled him to prosperity, setting him apart from my father and his employees. It was a paradigm that defined his success, a lesson in self-reliance and financial intelligence. On that radiant Saturday morning, I found myself immersed in a wholly different perspective from what my humble father had instilled in me. At the tender age of 9, I became cognizant that both paternal figures desired my education, albeit in divergent realms. My well-educated father advocated for following his footsteps, Son, devote yourself to diligent study, excel academically, secure a stable position at a reputable corporation, and ensure it offers robust benefits. Conversely, my affluent mentor, Rich Dad, urged me to grasp the mechanics of wealth, enabling me to wield it to my advantage. These invaluable insights weren't gleaned from conventional classrooms, but rather from life itself, under his astute guidance. Your initial indignation at earning a mere dime per hour, Rich Dad remarked with satisfaction, was pivotal. Had you not felt that righteous anger, but instead acquiesced contentedly, I would have doubted my ability to impart these teachings. Genuine learning demands vigor, fervor, and insatiable hunger. Indeed, passion is a fusion of anger and ardor. Yet, when it comes to financial matters, most individuals prioritize safety and security over passion. Fear becomes their compass, dictating their choices. Hence, they settle for meager wages. Is that why some accept low-paying jobs? I inquired. Precisely, Rich Dad affirmed. They perceive it as exploitation, but in truth, they exploit themselves, driven by fear. As for raising wages, it's futile. More money merely exacerbates their financial woes. Consider your father. He earns handsomely, yet struggles to manage his finances because he lacks financial literacy. He subscribes to the notion of working for money, whereas I advocate for making money work for you. Do others not yearn for such knowledge? I wondered. No, Rich Dad replied sagely, for it's easier to toil for money, particularly if fear dominates their financial discourse. But fret not. Understanding will come in due time. Fear, the primary force binding most to their jobs, shackles them to a life of servitude. Conversely, learning to leverage money is an entirely different endeavor. Isn't that the path everyone should pursue? I mused. Not necessarily, Rich Dad countered. For many, the allure of security outweighs the prospect of financial freedom. Yet for those willing to learn, the rewards are immeasurable. We lapsed into silence, my friends likely commencing their baseball game. Yet I found solace in my decision to earn 10 cents per hour, sensing an impending revelation. Are you ready to learn? Rich Dad inquired, breaking the silence. Absolutely, I affirmed with a grin. You've experienced a glimpse of the life awaiting those who toil for money, Rich Dad reflected. Multiply that by 50 years and you'll understand the fate of most. Remember waiting in line for a job or receiving paltry wages? That's the reality for many employees. Taxes further diminish their earnings, leaving them disillusioned. Most workers aren't paid in full? I gasped. Indeed, Rich Dad confirmed. Taxes claim their share first, on earnings, spending, savings, and even in death. The rich know how to navigate these waters, but the middle class and poor bear the brunt. Perplexed, I questioned, why tolerate such oppression? Rich Dad's enigmatic smile hinted at deeper truths. As I awaited his response, it became clear. Listening, not speaking, was the lesson at hand. And so, as silence enveloped us, I resolved to heed his wisdom, eager to embark on this enlightening journey. Understanding how to leverage money is a lifelong pursuit. While many invest 4 years in college and call it quits on education, I've embraced the fact that my financial education will persist throughout my life. The more I delve into the subject, the more I realize how much there is to learn. Unfortunately, most folks never truly study money. They clock in, collect their paychecks, manage their accounts, and wonder why financial woes persist. They mistakenly believe that more money is the solution, failing to recognize their lack of financial literacy as the root issue. I recall a conversation with my father about his tax troubles, which stemmed from his limited grasp of financial principles. Confused, I questioned Rich Dad, who explained that taxes are just a fraction of the larger picture of mastering money management. He probed whether I still possessed the drive to learn, a quality he noted as rare. Unlike most who seek traditional education, pursue careers, and chase wealth without understanding financial fundamentals, he stressed the importance of learning how to make money work for you. Affirming my commitment to learning, Rich Dad challenged me further. He declared that I would continue working, but without compensation this time. Despite my incredulity, he insisted it was a crucial step towards breaking the cycle of working solely for money. Seeing my dismay, he encouraged me to use the experience as motivation to break free from the constraints of financial dependence. So there I stood, grappling with the unexpected turn of events. Rather than a raise, I was faced with the prospect of toiling without pay. With a tap on the head and words of encouragement, Rich Dad nudged me towards a path of financial empowerment. I refrained from informing my father about my lack of payment. I doubted he would comprehend, and I wasn't prepared to clarify something I hadn't grasped fully myself. For the subsequent 3 weeks, Mike and I dedicated 3 hours each Saturday to work, without compensation. The labor itself didn't trouble me, and the routine became more manageable. However, it was the sacrifices like missing baseball games and not being able to afford comic books that wore on me. On the third week, Rich Dad arrived around noon, his truck's engine sputtering to a halt in the parking lot. After exchanging greetings with Mrs. Martin, he bought 2 ice cream bars from the freezer, motioning for Mike and me to join him on a walk. We traversed the street, navigating past a few cars, until we reached a grassy field where adults played softball. Seated at a secluded picnic table, Rich Dad handed us the ice cream bars. "How's it going, boys?" he inquired. "Okay," Mike replied, and I nodded in agreement. "Have you learned anything yet?" Rich Dad prodded. We exchanged glances, unsure of his intentions, and shook our heads in unison. "Well, you boys better start thinking. You're facing one of life's significant lessons," he emphasized. "If you grasp it, you'll enjoy freedom and security. Otherwise, you'll end up like Mrs. Martin and many others here, toiling tirelessly for meager earnings, clinging to the illusion of job security, and anticipating a scanty pension after years of labor. Does that excite you?" "No," I responded truthfully, though inwardly the prospect did excite me. Rich Dad's smile widened. "What about earning 25 cents an hour? Does that spark any interest?" Although hesitant, I couldn't deny the allure of such earnings. "No, but," I began, interrupted by his next offer. "All right, how about $1 an hour?" he proposed, his grin hinting at more to come. My heart quickened, tempted by the offer, yet I remained silent. $2 an hour, Rich Dad continued, almost teasingly. The figure astounded me, but I couldn't muster a response. Then he paused. $5 an hour. Suddenly, the temptation waned, replaced by a calm certainty. It was an offer too extravagant to fathom in 1956. Glancing at Mike, I found solace in our shared resolve. "Good," Rich Dad acknowledged softly. "Most people have a price, dictated by fear and greed. Fear drives them to work hard for money, while greed perpetuates a cycle of spending and striving for more." "Is there another way?" Mike inquired. "Indeed," Rich Dad affirmed, "but it's elusive. Few discover it." "And what might that be?" I asked, curious. "That's what I hope you boys will uncover through work and study with me," he replied cryptically. "Any hints?" Mike pressed, expressing our weariness with toiling without clarity. "The first step is honesty," Rich Dad asserted. "Not lying, but telling the truth about how you feel." "We haven't been dishonest," I protested. "I didn't accuse you of lying," Rich Dad clarified. "I urged you to confront your feelings. Most people here, including Mrs. Martin, don't. They let fear dictate their actions and emotions control their thoughts." "So they're not truthful about money?" I queried. "No, they're not," Rich Dad affirmed, tapping our heads lightly. "Money governs their lives, and they're unwilling to acknowledge it. Their emotions override rational thought, trapping them in a cycle of reaction rather than thoughtful action." Rich Dad fell silent, allowing his words to resonate with us. After absorbing Rich Dad's words, we understood his message clearly. "I want you boys to avoid that trap," he emphasized, his voice resonating with conviction. "That's the essence of what I aim to teach you. Not merely how to amass wealth, but how to navigate beyond it. Wealth alone doesn't solve the underlying issues," he explained, catching us off guard. "Really?" I interjected, surprised by his assertion. "Indeed," he affirmed, his tone steady. "Let me delve into the other driving force, desire. Some may label it as greed, but I prefer to call it desire. It's natural to yearn for something better, something more enticing. People pursue money because of this desire, for the fleeting joy they believe it can purchase. Yet the happiness money brings is often short-lived. Soon they find themselves chasing after more, seeking greater pleasure, comfort, and security. So they keep toiling away, believing money will soothe their restless souls, plagued by fear and desire. But money alone can't offer solace," Rich Dad continued, addressing Mike's question. "Even for the affluent?" Mike queried. "Yes, even for them," Rich Dad confirmed. "In fact, many wealthy individuals are driven not by desire, but by fear. They cling to the illusion that money can dispel the fear of poverty. So they accumulate vast fortunes only to find their fears intensify. They become consumed by the dread of losing it all. I've witnessed this firsthand, Rich Dad added. Friends who continue to toil despite their abundance. People with millions who are more apprehensive now than when they had little. They live in constant dread of losing their wealth. My goal is to empower you to master the dynamics of money, to eradicate fear rather than succumb to it, Rich Dad emphasized. This isn't something taught in schools. Without this understanding, you risk becoming enslaved to money. It's becoming clear, I realized, my perspective widening. Rich Dad sought to unveil a reality obscured from many, including Mrs. Martin, my father, and countless others. His teachings, though seemingly harsh at times, left an indelible mark on me. That day, my vision expanded, and I glimpsed the trap looming ahead for most. We're all employees in one form or another, Rich Dad continued. The goal is to rise above that status. I want to equip you with the tools to evade the trap fueled by fear and desire, to harness these forces to your advantage. How do we avoid this trap, then? I inquired eagerly. The root of financial struggle isn't the economy or external factors. It's self-inflicted fear and ignorance, Rich Dad clarified. While you pursue your education, I'll impart the wisdom to steer clear of this trap. As the pieces of the puzzle fell into place, I realized the invaluable lessons I could glean from both my highly educated father and Rich Dad. You mentioned the fear of not having money, Mike interjected. But how does desire for money influence our mindset? And did you notice our desires stir when you dangled the prospect of a pay raise? We nodded in agreement, eager to delve deeper into this profound discourse. By exercising control over your emotions, you've honed the ability to postpone immediate reactions and prioritize thoughtful responses, an invaluable skill. Emotions like fear and greed are ever present, but what matters most is how you leverage them for your long-term benefit, rather than allowing them to dictate your actions unchecked. Many fall prey to the detrimental cycle of fear and desire, unwittingly steering their lives based on these emotions without questioning where they lead. It's akin to the imagery of a donkey chasing a dangling carrot, a pursuit fueled by illusion rather than genuine fulfillment. As you grow older, the objects of desire become more elaborate, from simple toys to lavish possessions like cars, boats, and grand homes, all aimed at impressing others. Fear propels you forward while desire beckons, luring you toward potential pitfalls. A perilous trap indeed. The root of this trap lies in ignorance, which amplifies both fear and desire. Ironically, even the affluent often find themselves ensnared in greater fear as their wealth increases, for money itself becomes the illusory carrot driving them onward. Rich Dad elucidated that life's essence lies in the struggle between ignorance and enlightenment. When one ceases to seek knowledge and self-awareness, ignorance takes hold, perpetuating a constant battle within oneself. Education plays a pivotal role, not merely as an endpoint, but as a catalyst for ongoing growth and contribution to society. Ignorance concerning money breeds greed and fear, perpetuating a cycle where each profession seeks to maximize its gains without regard for the broader consequences. The resulting socioeconomic disparity threatens societal stability, mirroring historical collapses born from such imbalances. The trajectory of America reflects this pattern, underscoring humanity's failure to heed the lessons of the past. In an educated and well-governed society, prices should naturally decrease. However, greed and fear, fueled by ignorance, often drive prices upward. If education encompassed financial literacy, fostering a deeper understanding of money's dynamics, prosperity would be more widespread and prices more equitable. While business schools exist, they often produce adept bean counters rather than visionary leaders. Rich Dad cautioned against the dominance of bean-counting mentalities, which prioritize cost-cutting over holistic business growth. Emotions must be harnessed as tools for critical thinking, allowing one to discern between emotionally charged reactions and clear-headed analysis. The distinction between emotional and rational thinking is crucial, a lesson that resonated deeply and guided lifelong decision-making. Rich Dad emphasized that true wealth lies not in laboring for money, but in understanding its illusory nature. The pursuit of genuine fulfillment transcends the superficial allure of material wealth, aligning with the donkey's pursuit of its elusive carrot, a pursuit grounded in clarity rather than illusion. As he hopped into his pickup truck parked outside the quaint convenience store, he imparted some unconventional wisdom to us. Keep at it, boys. The sooner you detach from the paycheck mindset, the smoother your adult life will glide. Engage your minds, work without the price tag, and watch your thoughts craft avenues to wealth beyond wages. You'll start noticing opportunities previously camouflaged in the mundane. Mike and I gathered our belongings, bid Mrs. Martin farewell, and retreated to our familiar spot in the park. Hours turned into days and days into weeks as we ruminated, conversed, and toiled without remuneration. As another Saturday drew to a close, I found myself wistfully eyeing the comic book stand, lacking even a few pennies to indulge. Then, amidst our farewells to Mrs. Martin, a revelation struck me. She was snipping comic book covers in half, discarding the rest into a cardboard abyss. Intrigued, I inquired, discovering she exchanged these covers for credit with the distributor. With newfound purpose, Mike and I waited eagerly for the distributor's arrival. Our proposition, work for the store, no resale, rekindled our collaboration. Transforming Mike's dormant basement into a comic book sanctuary, we curated a library accessible to neighborhood kids for a dime. Mike's scholarly sister assumed the role of librarian, diligently monitoring entry and exit while we managed the logistics. Our enterprise flourished, yielding modest profits as we upheld our agreements with the distributor and fostered community engagement. Yet unforeseen challenges emerged, prompting the closure of our venture and a shift in focus. Rich Dad applauded our entrepreneurial spirit, emphasizing the invaluable lesson learned: wealth creation through innovation and autonomy. We transcended the confines of traditional employment, harnessing our ingenuity to forge a path to financial independence. Our journey epitomized Rich Dad's ethos, empowering us to let money work for us, not merely working for money. In his teachings, we found boundless opportunity and empowerment beyond measure. Why teach financial literacy? In reflecting on the journey of my friend Mike and myself, the importance of financial literacy stands out vividly. Mike, inheriting his father's prosperous empire, and I, opting for early retirement, both made significant life choices empowered by a deep understanding of financial principles. These choices, from leading a thriving business to enjoying financial freedom, were made possible because we were taught the fundamental importance of financial literacy from an early age. At the core of financial literacy lies the distinction between assets and liabilities. This simple yet profound concept, instilled in us by my rich dad, shapes financial decisions and paves the way to wealth. An asset, putting money in our pocket, contrasts sharply with a liability, which drains resources. Understanding this dichotomy serves as a guiding principle for accumulating wealth, yet it's a principle often overlooked or misunderstood by many. Rich Dad's method of teaching financial literacy to us as children was remarkably straightforward. Through simple diagrams and clear explanations, he conveyed complex financial concepts in a digestible manner. Central to his teachings was the visualization of cash flow, illustrating the different paths it takes for the poor, middle class, and wealthy. This visual representation elucidated the critical role assets play in generating income and highlighted the pitfalls of acquiring liabilities. In a world where financial education is often lacking, the consequences of this knowledge gap are evident. Many find themselves trapped in a cycle of debt and financial insecurity, despite earnest efforts to improve their situation. The allure of quick riches only exacerbates this predicament, masking underlying financial flaws rather than addressing them. The key to financial success lies not in chasing wealth, but in cultivating financial literacy. It's about understanding the principles of money management, distinguishing between assets and liabilities, and shaping cash flow patterns that lead to long-term prosperity. By imparting these essential skills, we equip individuals to navigate the complexities of personal finance with confidence and foresight, laying the foundation for a secure and fulfilling future. Due to a lack of financial education, many well-educated individuals embark on successful careers only to later face financial hardships. Despite their hard work, They struggle to get ahead because they lack crucial financial skills, particularly in managing their money effectively. Financial aptitude isn't just about earning money, it's about knowing how to spend it wisely, protect it from loss, maximize its potential, and understand cash flow. It's not uncommon to encounter highly educated professionals who are financially illiterate. They may work tirelessly, yet their money remains stagnant because they haven't learned how to make it work for them. Consider the typical narrative of a newly married, educated couple. Eager to secure their dream home and start a family, they focus on advancing their careers. As their incomes rise, so do their expenses, leaving little room for savings or investment. The bulk of their income is often eaten up by taxes, particularly Social Security contributions, which many overlook as a significant expense. Additionally, as they acquire assets like a home and car, their liabilities grow, leading to a cycle of increasing debt and financial strain. Even when offered solutions like consolidating debt into their mortgage for lower payments, they fail to recognize the long-term consequences. Temptations like credit card offers further exacerbate their financial woes, trapping them in a perpetual cycle of spending and debt. Despite their struggles, many remain unaware of the root cause of their financial difficulties, their own spending habits and lack of financial literacy. Simply earning more money isn't the solution. What's needed is a deeper understanding of how to manage and leverage money effectively. As the old adage goes, if you find yourself in a hole, stop digging. It's not about earning more, but about using what you have wisely and intelligently to build a stable financial future. Too often, the grip of money's power tightens around the poor and middle class, driving them to work harder without questioning the logic of their efforts. Each morning as they depart for work, they unwittingly sabotage themselves. Lacking a full comprehension of money, most people fall prey to its formidable influence, becoming ensnared in its machinations. At the age of 16, Mike and I encountered difficulties in school, not due to misbehavior, but because we began to diverge from the norm. Our education extended beyond the classroom as we toiled alongside Mike's father after school and on weekends. Hours spent in the company of his father and various financial professionals proved more enlightening than all our academic years combined. Mike's father, though not formally educated, possessed financial acumen, a trait he imparted to us. His mantra, "An intelligent person hires those more intelligent than themselves," became our creed. This exposure led us to challenge the conventional wisdom espoused by our teachers, often questioning the relevance of our studies and the omission of financial education from the curriculum. Our growing understanding of money only served to alienate us further from our peers and instructors. Unlike my highly educated father, who refrained from pressuring me about grades, our discussions often revolved around money. By the age of 16, I had likely surpassed both my parents in financial literacy, meticulously maintaining records and absorbing insights from tax accountants, lawyers, bankers, and investors. While my father conversed with teachers, my interactions delved into the realm of finance. A contentious debate ensued one day when I challenged my father's assertion that our home constituted his greatest investment. I argued otherwise, illustrating the disparity in perception between my affluent mentor and my humble father. Whereas my father classified the house as an asset, my mentor deemed it a liability, emphasizing its drain on resources through ongoing expenses. My attempt to elucidate the cash flow dynamics and ancillary costs associated with homeownership only deepened the divide in our perspectives. Despite homeownership being a cherished aspiration for many, I advocate for a more critical evaluation of its financial implications. While acknowledging the emotional appeal of a grand residence, I contend that emotions often cloud financial judgment. Regarding homeownership, I highlight the common scenario wherein individuals spend a lifetime servicing mortgages without ever truly owning their homes. The cyclical nature of acquiring new loans perpetuates a cycle of indebtedness, compounded by escalating property taxes and fluctuating property values. Moreover, tying up finances in real estate precludes seizing lucrative opportunities and exacerbates financial strains. By redirecting resources towards assets early on, individuals can mitigate financial burdens in later years, particularly as they plan for major expenses like college tuition. Instead of viewing a house solely as a shelter, it often serves as collateral for mounting debts, perpetuating the cycle of financial dependence. In essence, deciding to purchase an excessively expensive house instead of initiating an early investment portfolio can detrimentally affect individuals in several ways. Firstly, it leads to a loss of time during which other assets could have appreciated in value. Secondly, it results in a loss of additional capital that could have been invested rather than being allocated to high maintenance expenses associated directly with the home. Thirdly, it entails a loss of educational opportunities. Often, individuals rely solely on their home savings and retirement plans, neglecting investment opportunities due to financial constraints. This lack of investment experience prevents them from becoming sophisticated investors who typically have access to the best investment opportunities. Consequently, they miss out on the chance to capitalize on lucrative investments, which are often initially available to sophisticated investors before being made accessible to others. A comparison of my educated dad's and my rich dad's personal financial statements vividly illustrates the contrasting outcomes of different financial approaches. My educated dad's statement reflects a life trapped in the rat race, where expenses consistently match or exceed income, preventing the accumulation of assets. In contrast, my rich dad's statement exemplifies a life dedicated to investing and minimizing liabilities, resulting in assets far outweighing liabilities. This disparity underscores the adage that the rich get richer. Income generated from the asset column not only covers expenses, but also fuels further asset growth, perpetuating wealth accumulation. The middle class, characterized by reliance on wage income, often finds itself trapped in a cycle of financial struggle. As wages increase, so do taxes and expenses, perpetuating the rat race phenomenon. Rather than prioritizing income-generating assets, they mistakenly view their homes as their primary assets, further perpetuating their financial struggles. The key principle to wealth accumulation lies in discerning between assets and liabilities. Focusing on acquiring income-generating assets is paramount. By consistently investing in such assets and minimizing liabilities and expenses, individuals can steadily grow their asset column and pave the way toward financial prosperity. The prevalent practice of viewing one's home as an investment, coupled with the notion that a salary increase warrants upgrading to a larger home or indulging in more spending, lies at the core of today's heavily indebted society. This cycle of escalating expenditure plunges families deeper into debt and financial instability, despite potential career advancements and regular pay raises. Such precarious living stems from a lack of robust financial literacy. For individuals who are both employees and homeowners, their labor efforts typically serve multiple entities. Firstly, they work for an employer, often contributing to the enrichment of owners or shareholders. Subsequently, a portion of their earnings is claimed by the government in taxes, with harder work only resulting in a larger tax burden. Consequently, a significant portion of their year is spent laboring for governmental obligations. Finally, a considerable chunk of their income goes towards servicing mortgage and credit card debts, effectively working for the bank. However, the more one toils, the larger the slices each of these entities takes from their increased efforts. The key lies in redirecting these efforts towards personal and familial prosperity. Upon deciding to prioritize self-investment, the question arises, how does one set meaningful financial goals? For many, professional pursuits fund asset acquisition, with success gauged by asset accumulation. However, true wealth, as defined by Buckminster Fuller, transcends mere net worth. It's the ability to sustain oneself financially over a period independent of earned income. Wealth, in essence, is the product of asset-generated cash flow exceeding expenses. Consider an example. If monthly asset-generated cash flow amounts to $1,000 and monthly expenses tally at $2,000, one's wealth equates to sustaining half a month without external income. True wealth is achieved when asset-generated cash flow matches or surpasses monthly expenses, thereby freeing individuals from dependence on wages. The path to wealth entails diligent reinvestment of surplus cash flow into the asset column, fostering exponential growth. By consistently maintaining expenses below asset-generated cash flow, individuals progressively amass income from non-labor sources, inching closer to financial independence. This cyclical process of reinvestment propels one towards prosperity, gradually redefining their perception of wealth. In essence, the distinction between the rich, the poor, and the middle class lies in their asset allocation. The rich prioritize asset acquisition, while the poor remain burdened by expenses. Meanwhile, the middle class often misidentifies liabilities as assets. Thus, the journey to financial independence begins with minding one's own business, as famously advocated by the founder of McDonald's. In 1974, Ray Kroc, the visionary behind McDonald's, was invited to address an MBA class at the University of Texas at Austin. Among the students was my close friend, Keith Cunningham. Following Kroc's captivating talk, the class sought to continue the conversation over beers at their usual spot, and Kroc kindly accepted the invitation. "What's my line of work?" he queried once they were all settled with their drinks. Keith recounted how most of the students chuckled, assuming it was a jest. Yet, when pressed again, Kroc revealed his true business: real estate. He emphasized that McDonald's wasn't merely in the burger business, but owned vast swathes of prime real estate worldwide, even surpassing holdings of the Catholic Church. Keith regarded this encounter as a pivotal lesson, shaping his own ventures into car washes, where his focus lay on the underlying real estate. Kroc's revelation echoed a crucial principle: mind your own business, the third secret of the affluent. Financial stability often eludes those who spend their lives toiling for others. Our conventional education system grooms individuals for employment, emphasizing professional skills over cultivating entrepreneurial acumen. Many conflate their profession with their business, failing to recognize the distinction. Kroc, for instance, identified as a salesman but recognized his true business lay in accumulating income-generating real estate. To achieve financial security, one must prioritize building assets over chasing a higher income. While the masses clamor for raises, promotions, or additional jobs, the wealthy focus on expanding their asset portfolios. The root of fiscal conservatism prevalent among the middle class and poor lies in their lack of financial foundation, compelling them to cling to employment for security. However, assets aren't just possessions, they're income-producing entities. Businesses, stocks, bonds, real estate, intellectual property that appreciate or generate revenue independently. Teaching young individuals to discern assets from liabilities equips them to make sound financial decisions early on, averting the pitfalls of debt accumulation and financial insecurity later in life. By nurturing a culture of asset accumulation rather than consumption, individuals can secure their financial future and break free from the cycle of financial dependency. When I was young, my dad had differing perspectives on my future. One, an educated man, urged me to pursue a secure job. The other, wealthier but less conventionally educated, encouraged me to invest in assets I truly enjoyed. His mantra was simple: if you don't have a passion for it, you won't nurture it. My love for real estate stems from an innate fascination with buildings and land. The process of acquiring properties is a joy for me. I could spend hours admiring them. Even when challenges arise, my affection for real estate remains steadfast. Similarly, I have a fondness for stocks, particularly those of small companies and startups. This preference reflects my entrepreneurial spirit. Despite working in large organizations like Standard Oil of California, the U.S. Marine Corps, and Xerox Corporation in my early years, a time I cherish, I've always known I'm not cut out for corporate life. I thrive on launching ventures rather than managing them. Hence, I often invest in small companies, sometimes even founding them myself and taking them public. I find the thrill of new stock issues exhilarating. While many deem small-cap companies risky, and rightfully so, I believe risk diminishes when you understand and love what you're investing in. Following my rich dad's advice, I maintained a daytime job while actively building my asset portfolio. Financial literacy, as emphasized by him, has been instrumental. Understanding accounting and cash management not only aids in investment analysis, but also lays the groundwork for starting and growing one's own business. Starting a company isn't for everyone. The odds of success are slim, and the journey is arduous. I only recommend it to those with a genuine desire and readiness for the challenges it entails. Otherwise, focusing on building a strong asset column while maintaining a steady job is prudent advice. Money invested wisely becomes a tireless employee, working around the clock and potentially benefiting future generations. A key principle I adhere to is delaying luxury purchases until after building a solid asset base. Unlike the poor and middle class who often accumulate debt for immediate gratification, the wealthy prioritize growing their assets first. Luxuries become rewards for prudent financial management and investment. For instance, when my wife and I had surplus income from our rental properties, she acquired a Mercedes-Benz. This luxury wasn't a burden, it was a testament to her financial acumen and patience. Impulse buying on credit, a common pitfall, can lead to resentment towards luxuries as the debt accumulates. Instead, investing time and effort into building one's business lays the foundation for true financial success. The ultimate secret of the wealthy lies in diligently minding one's own business, a journey that promises substantial rewards for those willing to embark on it. Lesson 4 delves into the historical narrative of taxes and the dynamics of corporate power. Back in my school days, the legend of Robin Hood was a favored tale, depicting him as a valiant hero akin to Kevin Costner, stealing from the affluent to aid the impoverished. However, my affluent father saw Robin Hood differently. To him, Robin Hood was nothing but a thief. Although Robin Hood may belong to the past, his ideology persists, often echoed in sentiments like, "Why don't the wealthy foot the bill?" or "The rich should contribute more to taxes for the sake of the poor." This Robin Hood mentality, unfortunately, has brought significant hardship to the very people it aimed to assist, the middle and lower classes. The burden of taxation disproportionately falls on the middle class, primarily due to the enduring influence of Robin Hood's ethos. Contrary to popular belief, it's not the wealthy who bear the brunt of taxes, but rather the educated, higher income segments of the middle class. To comprehend this phenomenon fully, we must scrutinize the historical evolution of taxation. While my well-educated father was a scholar in educational history, my affluent father prided himself on his understanding of tax history. He elucidated to my friend Mike and me that taxes were not always a fixture in society. In both England and America, taxes were initially sporadic, imposed temporarily to fund wartime endeavors. For instance, Britain imposed taxes to combat Napoleon from 1799 to 1816, and in America, taxes were levied during the Civil War from 1861 to 1865. However, the concept of income tax as a permanent levy emerged later. Britain adopted it in 1874, and the United States followed suit in 1913 with the 16th Amendment to the Constitution. What often escapes notice in these historical milestones is that initially, these taxes targeted the affluent exclusively. This crucial point my affluent father emphasized is vital for us to grasp. He elucidated that taxes gained acceptance and popularity by portraying them as tools to penalize the wealthy. By convincing the masses that taxes were solely punitive measures against the rich, governments garnered support for these laws, rendering them constitutionally legitimate. Yet, in reality, these taxes ended up burdening those who supported them, the middle and lower classes. My affluent father and my father differed fundamentally in their ideologies and objectives. While my father served in government, adhering to bureaucratic principles, my affluent father epitomized capitalism. Their divergent aims were apparent. My father's success hinged on spending money and expanding his organization, while my affluent father thrived by economizing and minimizing expenditure, earning respect from investors. This contrast underscored my disdain for governmental figures, whose objectives diverged starkly from those of most business people. As governmental entities expanded, so did their financial appetites, necessitating a perpetual influx of tax revenue. As previously mentioned, the popular acceptance of taxation stemmed from the Robin Hood economic theory, redistributing wealth from the affluent to the masses. However, the government's insatiable hunger for funds soon necessitated levies on the middle class, perpetuating a trickle-down effect. Meanwhile, the affluent capitalized on their understanding of corporate structures, a legacy from the era of maritime trade. By forming corporations, the affluent shielded their assets, limiting their liability to each venture's capital investment. This knowledge bestowed upon them a significant advantage over the middle and lower classes. With two paternal figures, one socialist, the other capitalist, shaping my worldview, I gravitated towards the financial logic of capitalism. It became evident to me that socialist ideologies often penalized their adherents due to a lack of financial literacy. Regardless of the measures proposed to extract wealth from the affluent, they always found loopholes to evade them. This strategic prowess ultimately culminated in the imposition of taxes on the middle class, as the affluent outmaneuvered the intellectuals, armed with their profound understanding of financial dynamics, an education sorely lacking in conventional schooling. After the implementation of the take from the rich tax, a significant influx of cash streamed into government coffers, marking the moment when the wealthy outmaneuvered the intellectuals. Initially, there was widespread contentment as funds were distributed among government employees and affluent individuals. Government workers received financial support through job opportunities and pensions, while the wealthy benefited from lucrative government contracts awarded to their enterprises. However, the mismanagement of these funds became glaringly evident. There was minimal reinvestment, with excess money discouraged among government bureaucrats. Unused funds risked forfeiture in subsequent budgets, discouraging efficiency. Conversely, in the business realm, surplus capital was lauded and efficiency rewarded. As government spending ballooned, the demand for funds soared, prompting adjustments to tax policies that now encompassed lower income brackets, including those who had initially supported the measure. True capitalists, armed with financial acumen, sought refuge within corporations, which shielded their wealth. Yet, many fail to grasp that a corporation is not a tangible entity, but a legal construct. This realization fueled the resurgence of corporations following the enactment of permanent income laws, offering favorable tax rates and pre-tax expense allowances. The perpetual struggle between the affluent and the less fortunate persists, echoing through generations. Despite efforts to redistribute wealth, the uninformed populace bears the brunt of the consequences. If only they comprehended the strategies employed by the wealthy, they could level the playing field and secure their financial independence. Regrettably, conventional wisdom often steers individuals towards secure employment, fostering dependence rather than empowerment. The average American toils for months to satisfy tax obligations, a testament to the flawed notion of wealth redistribution. Attempts to penalize the wealthy often backfire, prompting resourceful responses. Armed with influence and financial prowess, the affluent navigate legal frameworks to minimize tax burdens. Conversely, the less privileged succumb to governmental pressures, surrendering a significant portion of their earnings. My upbringing presented two contrasting perspectives, one advocating corporate employment and the other championing entrepreneurial ownership. Embracing the latter altered my trajectory, steering me away from the path of conventional success towards financial autonomy. Only through the guidance of my mentor did I recognize the fallacy of relying solely on employment for prosperity. It was a gradual awakening, culminating in my refusal to succumb to the allure of corporate ladder climbing. Instead, I embarked on a journey towards entrepreneurship, spurred by the conviction that ownership yields true wealth. In hindsight, the wisdom imparted by my mentor became increasingly evident as I navigated my post-military career. Despite the allure of promotions and salary increases, I couldn't shake the fundamental question: who truly benefits from my labor? It was this introspection that propelled me towards entrepreneurship, echoing the sentiments of my mentor and setting me on a path of financial empowerment. In 1974, while still employed at Xerox, I established my inaugural corporation, embarking on a journey of entrepreneurship. At that time, my asset column boasted a few entries, but my ambition urged me to amplify its magnitude. The wisdom imparted by my rich dad over the years, especially in light of the deductions from my paychecks, now resonated deeply. I could envision the future, aligning with the counsel of my educated father. While some employers may perceive advising self-focus detrimental to business, for me, concentrating on personal enterprise and asset cultivation elevated my effectiveness as an employee. A newfound sense of purpose drove me to arrive early and toil diligently, accumulating funds for real estate ventures, particularly in the burgeoning market of Hawaii. As the realization of an impending economic upturn dawned upon me, each Xerox machine sold translated into augmented earnings, further fueling my aspirations. Despite the escalating deductions, the prospect was invigorating. My fervent desire to break free from the employee's rut propelled me to intensify my efforts. By 1978, I consistently ranked among the top 5 salespeople, often securing the coveted #1 spot. The yearning to escape the rat race intensified. In under 3 years, my earnings from my fledgling corporation, primarily a real estate holding entity, eclipsed those from Xerox. The wealth accumulating in my asset column now worked for me, liberating me from the grind of peddling copiers. The wisdom of my rich dad assumed a tangible form. Soon, the robust cash flow from my properties facilitated the acquisition of my inaugural Porsche, much to the bewilderment of my Xerox colleagues, who presumed I squandered my commissions. Little did they know, I reinvested diligently, nurturing my assets to generate further wealth. Each dollar in my asset column functioned as a diligent employee, diligently laboring to multiply resources, affording the luxury of acquiring a new Porsche with pre-tax earnings. My allegiance to Xerox deepened as the efficacy of my strategy became apparent, validated by the acquisition of my Porsche. Drawing from the teachings of my rich dad, I emancipated myself from the confines of conventional employment at a tender age, facilitated by a robust financial acumen. This financial prowess, or what I term financial IQ, served as the cornerstone of my journey to financial independence. Recognizing its transformative potential, I now endeavor to impart these invaluable lessons through financial seminars, aspiring to empower others with the same knowledge. During these sessions, I emphasize the 4 pillars constituting financial IQ: financial literacy, investing, market understanding, and legal comprehension. Financial literacy, akin to the left brain, is paramount for deciphering financial statements, crucial for strategic decision-making. Investing, the science of wealth multiplication, harnesses creativity and strategic acumen to generate returns. Market understanding entails navigating the emotional and economic aspects of markets, distinguishing between technical and fundamental influences. Finally, legal comprehension, particularly regarding corporate structures, offers a gateway to exponential growth and tax advantages, transforming the trajectory of wealth accumulation. Unlike individuals, corporations possess the ability to leverage pre-tax dollars for expenses, a significant advantage in long-term wealth accumulation. Despite the complexities, setting up a corporation is both accessible and economically viable, especially for individuals with substantial assets or entrepreneurial ventures. By embracing the paradigm shift from earning and being taxed to spending pre-tax income, individuals can unlock a realm of financial possibilities, transcending the limitations of conventional employment. Lesson number 5. Wealth is created through innovation. I've been in the teaching profession since 1984, and it has been an enriching journey. However, it's also disconcerting because I've witnessed thousands of individuals grappling with a common obstacle: self-doubt. Despite possessing immense potential and unique gifts, many of us are hindered by varying degrees of uncertainty. It's not merely a lack of knowledge that holds us back, but rather a deficiency in self-assurance. Upon leaving the academic realm, we quickly realize that success is not solely determined by academic achievements or qualifications. In the real world, attributes such as audacity, tenacity, and cunning play pivotal roles. Having served in Vietnam as a Marine Corps pilot, I intimately acquainted myself with both the fearless and apprehensive aspects of my character. Neither is superior to the other. Yet excessive fear and self-doubt often obstruct personal genius. In my experience, financial success demands not only technical expertise, but also courage. Fear, if unchecked, stifles genius. I encourage my students to embrace risk-taking and boldness, harnessing their genius to transform fear into power and brilliance. However, while some thrive under this approach, others find it daunting. When it comes to matters of money, many prefer to play it safe and question the importance of developing financial intelligence. To them, I simply respond, it's about having more options. The landscape of wealth creation is evolving rapidly, driven by information. Those with timely, relevant information hold the keys to prosperity in this dynamic environment. Yet, I observe numerous individuals clinging to outdated notions, resisting change, and blaming external factors for their struggles. They fail to realize that their reluctance to adapt is their greatest hindrance. What was once an asset may now be a liability in this ever-changing world. I recall a teaching moment using a financial education game where a participant, initially enthusiastic, grew frustrated with the mathematical aspects. Eventually, she realized how her possessions were draining her resources, but instead of introspection, she sought to blame external factors. This incident underscores the reluctance of some to confront personal accountability. As a teacher, it's disheartening to witness missed opportunities for growth. Yet, I remain committed to empowering individuals to navigate the complexities of finance with confidence and resilience. Since 1984, I've amassed fortunes by diverging from conventional schooling methods. In classrooms, teachers often rely on lectures, a method that always left me restless as a student. In response, I pioneered a teaching approach centered around games and simulations. I advocate for adult learners to view games as mirrors, reflecting their existing knowledge and areas for growth, particularly in behavior. Games serve as immediate feedback mechanisms tailored uniquely to each player, unlike traditional lectures. Recently, a friend's acquaintance reached out to update me on her well-being after a moment of distress. During her reflective period, she recognized parallels between the game and her life experiences, akin to insights gained from board games. Our world continuously offers instantaneous feedback. The challenge lies in being attuned to it. Not long ago, I lamented to my wife about seemingly shrunken pants, only to be gently reminded that it wasn't the fabric, but rather my expanding waistline. This anecdote mirrors the feedback loop inherent in the game Cash Flow, which aims to provide personalized feedback to players, encouraging them to explore diverse financial avenues. Observing over 1,000 players engage with cash flow, I've noticed that those quickest to escape the rat race possess a strong numerical aptitude and innovative financial acumen. Conversely, individuals lacking numerical fluency and investment comprehension often lag behind, despite monetary gains within the game and reality alike. Indeed, many individuals amass wealth without a clear plan for its utilization, mirroring the challenge faced by those who accumulate wealth in the game but struggle to progress. In both contexts, limiting oneself to outdated strategies stifles progress. For instance, a high school friend, once prosperous, now juggles 3 jobs due to a lack of adaptability when his primary employer shut down. Despite his skills, he remains overqualified for his current positions, a consequence of clinging to obsolete notions of hard work as the sole solution. Similarly, both in cash flow and reality, individuals often bemoan the absence of ideal opportunities or resources, failing to recognize or capitalize on available prospects. True financial intelligence lies in expanding one's options beyond conventional wisdom. When faced with limited opportunities or unexpected setbacks, the key is to innovate and adapt, turning challenges into lucrative ventures. Enhancing financial intelligence empowers individuals to create their own luck, transforming setbacks into opportunities for prosperity. Rather than passively waiting for favorable circumstances, cultivating financial intelligence enables proactive engagement with financial challenges, fostering resilience and success. In essence, waiting for the perfect conditions to act is akin to waiting for all traffic lights to align before embarking on a journey, a fruitless endeavor. Instead, embracing financial intelligence allows one to navigate the complexities of wealth creation with confidence and agility. During our youth, my friend Mike and I received a consistent message from my affluent father: money isn't real. He would often remind us of how close we were to unlocking the secrets of wealth. That initial revelation sparked our journey into crafting money from plaster of Paris. Rich Dad's mantra was clear: while the poor and middle class toil for money, the wealthy create it. He emphasized that the more one perceives money as tangible, the harder they work for it. Conversely, understanding money's intangible nature accelerates wealth accumulation. What is money if it's not real? Mike and I frequently pondered. It's what we agree it is, Rich Dad cryptically replied. He underscored the paramount importance of a well-trained mind, capable of generating substantial wealth seemingly overnight. Consider a simple illustration of wealth creation. In the early 1990s, amidst Phoenix's economic downturn, conventional wisdom preached saving. Yet, while saving is prudent, it often blinds individuals to lucrative opportunities for exponential growth. During this economic slump, my wife and I capitalized on distressed markets. Rather than saving, we invested. Amidst plummeting property values, we secured properties at steep discounts, leveraging minimal cash investments. By leveraging market conditions and astute financial maneuvers, we orchestrated numerous transactions, swiftly turning profits. These endeavors, requiring minimal time investment, yielded substantial returns, sheltered through strategic financial structuring. This approach illustrates how financial intelligence transforms simple transactions into lucrative ventures, bypassing conventional wisdom's limitations. Yet, this strategy isn't universally applicable. It requires keen market insight and adaptability. However, it exemplifies money's essence, an agreement accessible to anyone with basic financial literacy. While traditional advice advocates hard work and saving, our experiences showcase the potency of financial intelligence in wealth creation. My skepticism towards conventional education stems from its failure to impart essential financial skills. Success hinges on mastering fundamental financial principles: literacy, investment strategies, market dynamics, and legal comprehension. These skills form the bedrock of wealth accumulation, guiding investment decisions across diverse assets. Personally, I favor real estate and small-cap stocks for wealth generation. Real estate provides stable cash flow and incremental appreciation, while small-cap stocks offer rapid growth potential. However, my choices aren't prescriptive. They serve as examples, rooted in simplicity and common sense. Complexity breeds uncertainty. Thus, I advocate for investments within one's understanding. Ultimately, financial success hinges on mastering basic principles and seizing opportunities with clarity and confidence. Lesson 6. Prioritize learning over simply earning money. Back in 1985, during an interview I granted to a Singaporean newspaper, I found myself engaged in a conversation with a punctual young reporter. As we sat in the opulent lobby of a luxury hotel, sipping coffee, our dialogue swiftly turned to the purpose of my visit. I was slated to share the stage with Zig Ziglar, who would speak on motivation, while I would delve into the secrets of the rich. Mid-conversation, the reporter expressed her aspiration to become a best-selling author, admiring my own accomplishments. Intrigued, I acknowledged her talent, having read some of her compelling articles in the paper. However, she confided in me her frustration. Despite praise for her novels, she felt stalled in her career, relegated to her job at the paper to make ends meet. Recognizing her potential, I offered a suggestion. Why not enhance her career by attending sales training courses offered by a friend of mine in Singapore? Initially taken aback, she recoiled at the notion of stooping low to learn sales, citing her master's degree in English literature as evidence of her professionalism. Yet, I pointed out her own notes, where she had written best-selling author, not best writing author. The realization dawned on her. Her strength lay not just in writing, but in effectively selling her ideas. Despite her initial resistance, she left, perhaps with a newfound perspective. Reflecting on this encounter, I realized a pervasive truth. Many skilled individuals are underpaid or underutilized. It's not uncommon to encounter highly educated professionals struggling financially. However, as a business consultant once told me, they're often just one skill away from unlocking their full potential. Financial intelligence, I've come to understand, is a fusion of various technical skills: accounting, investing, marketing, and law. Mastering these disciplines can exponentially increase one's earning potential. Yet, for many, the default approach to making money is simply hard work. Consider the example of the young reporter. By embracing sales and marketing skills alongside her writing prowess, she could catapult her income and career trajectory. I envisioned her attending courses in advertising, copywriting, and sales, transitioning to a role in an advertising agency. Though it might entail initial sacrifices, the payoff could be immense. Furthermore, she could delve into public relations, harnessing the power of free publicity to promote her work. With dedication and strategic learning, she could eventually realize her dream of becoming a best-selling author. In essence, the path to financial success often requires more than just hard work. It demands strategic skill acquisition and a willingness to adapt. By mastering complementary disciplines, one can unlock new opportunities and achieve greater prosperity. When I graduated from the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy in 1969, my well-educated father was pleased. Standard Oil of California had hired me for its oil tanker fleet, where I served as the third mate. Although my starting pay of about $42,000 a year, including overtime, was lower than that of many of my peers, it marked the beginning of my career journey after college. Despite having just 7 months of work, with 5 months of vacation, I had the option to double my pay by taking a run to Vietnam with a subsidiary shipping company instead of enjoying the extended vacation. Despite the promising career trajectory ahead of me, I chose to resign from my position after 6 months and pursue flight training in the Marine Corps. While my educated father was devastated by my decision, my other mentor, Rich Dad, congratulated me. While conventional wisdom in both educational and professional circles often emphasizes specialization for career advancement, seen in fields like medicine, law, and finance, Rich Dad advocated for a broader understanding across various domains. Instead of focusing narrowly on one area, Rich Dad encouraged me to gain diverse experiences within his companies, exposing me to roles in accounting, hospitality, construction, sales, and marketing. Through this eclectic mix of experiences, I gained a comprehensive understanding of business operations and management principles, preparing me for the challenges ahead. Despite the initial confusion from my educated father, who believed I attended school solely to become a ship's officer, Rich Dad recognized the broader educational opportunities inherent in studying international trade. While my peers were reveling in college parties, I was immersing myself in trade routes, cultures, and business practices across Asia and the Pacific, expanding my horizons in ways beyond the classroom. After serving in the Marine Corps and experiencing the importance of leadership firsthand, I transitioned to corporate life with Xerox Corporation to confront my fear of sales. Despite initial skepticism from my educated father, I embraced the challenge, eventually becoming a top performer in sales before moving on to pursue entrepreneurship. In 1977, I founded my first company alongside my friend Mike, venturing into the world of business ownership and product development. Despite the risks inherent in entrepreneurship, I embraced Rich Dad's philosophy that failure is often a precursor to success, launching my first product and embarking on a journey that would lead me to do business internationally. Today, my investment ventures span continents, echoing Rich Dad's advice to seek opportunities in emerging markets. While traditional notions of employment often lead to financial stagnation, I've embraced a mindset of financial intelligence, continually seeking opportunities for growth and expansion beyond the confines of a traditional job. Another flawed management theory suggests that workers exert just enough effort to avoid termination, while employers offer only sufficient compensation to prevent mass resignations. A cursory glance at the wage structures of many companies seems to confirm this notion to some extent. Consequently, the majority of employees find themselves stuck in a perpetual cycle of stagnation. They adhere to the conventional wisdom of securing a stable job, fixating on immediate financial rewards and benefits, oblivious to the long-term ramifications. My advice to the younger generation differs markedly. Prioritize opportunities for growth over immediate monetary gains. Consider the trajectory of skill acquisition before committing to a specific profession or career path. Avoid falling into the trap of the rat race. For those seeking to enhance their income, I advocate adopting a more strategic approach. Embrace a holistic perspective on life, recognizing that true wealth transcends mere financial security. I often recommend pursuing supplementary endeavors that facilitate skill diversification. Joining a network marketing company, for instance, can provide invaluable sales training and foster resilience in the face of rejection. In the grand scheme of things, education holds far greater value than monetary wealth. Consider this simple analogy. When I inquire in my classes how many students can prepare a superior hamburger compared to McDonald's, nearly all raise their hands. Yet, despite this proficiency, McDonald's continues to thrive. Why? Because they excel in the realm of business systems. Many individuals, despite possessing remarkable talents, remain mired in financial struggle due to their neglect of business acumen. Take, for example, a friend of mine who squandered his inheritance on an ill-conceived advertising venture, oblivious to the intricacies of marketing. The world abounds with gifted yet impoverished individuals, often because they prioritize honing their craft over mastering essential business skills. While technical proficiency certainly has its merits, it pales in comparison to the ability to effectively market and sell one's talents. Rich Dad, in contrast to the conventional wisdom of specialization, advocated for a broader skill set. He recognized the importance of grooming oneself for success, urging individuals to cultivate a diverse range of competencies rather than pigeonholing themselves into a single domain. In today's landscape, versatility reigns supreme. Companies increasingly value employees capable of navigating various facets of their operations, eschewing the antiquated notion of steadfast allegiance to a single organization. To thrive in this dynamic environment, one must prioritize the management of cash flow, systems, and interpersonal relationships. Salesmanship and marketing prowess emerge as indispensable assets, facilitating effective communication and negotiation in all spheres of life. I've witnessed firsthand the transformative power of honing these skills. Countless individuals have transcended their limitations and unlocked boundless potential by mastering the art of selling and marketing. In essence, the journey towards personal and professional fulfillment begins with the cultivation of effective communication and negotiation skills. By embracing lifelong learning and surrounding oneself with individuals of diverse expertise, one can navigate the complexities of the modern world with confidence and resilience. Getting started on the path to wealth wasn't as easy as I hoped it would be. But when faced with the question of how to begin, I'll share the day-to-day thought process I rely on. Finding lucrative deals is simpler than you think. It's akin to learning to ride a bike. There's a bit of wobbling at first, but soon enough, it becomes second nature. Yet with money, it's about persevering through the initial challenges. That's a deeply personal journey. Uncovering million-dollar opportunities demands tapping into our financial prowess. I firmly believe that each of us possesses this inner genius. The hitch is, it often lies dormant, awaiting activation. Our cultural conditioning, warning against the perils of greed, has lulled it to sleep. We've been taught to pursue professions solely to earn a living, neglecting the crucial lesson of making money work for us. The narrative assures us that our financial security will be tended to by either our employers or the government in our retirement years, overlooking the burden this places on future generations. The prevailing ethos preaches the virtues of hard work, earning, spending, and borrowing when necessary. Sadly, the majority adheres to this doctrine, opting for the comfort of conventional employment. If you're among the minority seeking to awaken your financial acumen, I propose 10 steps based on my own journey. Embrace them if they resonate with you. If not, forge your own path. Trust that your financial genius is capable of crafting its own blueprint for success. Step 1 begins with a quest for purpose beyond the confines of reality. Ask most individuals if they aspire for wealth or financial independence, and the answer typically veers towards affirmation. However, the journey often appears daunting, with hills to climb and roads too winding. It seems simpler to toil for money and delegate the surplus to financial intermediaries. Purpose, a fusion of desires and aversions, underpins our aspirations. When queried about my desire for affluence, it's a tapestry woven with deep-seated emotional threads. Let's enumerate the aversions first, for they often engender our desires. I eschew the notion of merely existing, trading my time for a predetermined fate. The aspirations of my parents, rooted in job security and suburban living, fail to resonate. The trappings of employment feel confining. Now, onto the desires. I yearn for the freedom to traverse the globe, indulging in a lifestyle that resonates with my soul. I aspire to embark on this journey while youth still courses through my veins. Freedom, in its purest essence, beckons me. I crave autonomy over my time and resources, allowing money to toil on my behalf. These are the profound emotional pillars that scaffold my aspirations. What about yours? As I've mentioned, it's not a facile undertaking, yet neither is it insurmountable. Without a compelling raison d'etre, every pursuit in life metamorphoses into an arduous endeavor. Onward to step 2, the daily act of choice. Choice wields a formidable power. It's the cornerstone of our desire to inhabit a land where freedom reigns supreme. Financially, each dollar that graces our palms bears the seed of our future, wealth, mediocrity, or destitution. Our spending habits, a reflection of our essence, delineate this trajectory. Alas, for the majority, the mantle of affluence feels burdensome, a sentiment encapsulated in phrases like, money holds no allure for me, or I'll ponder my future once fortune smiles upon me. Yet these statements exact a toll, depriving one of two invaluable treasures: time, our most precious asset, and knowledge. Scarcity of funds should never serve as a pretext for intellectual indolence. Choice, its potency pervades every facet of our existence. I, for one, elect affluence, reaffirming this choice with each passing day. Step 3 underscores the importance of discerning companionship. Let me clarify. My selection of friends isn't contingent upon their financial ledger. Amongst my confidants, some have embraced austerity while others amass wealth in abundance. Each imparts invaluable lessons, and I approach these relationships with a deliberate intent to learn. However, a subtle distinction emerges. My affluent friends engage in conversations about wealth, not to boast, but out of genuine interest. In this discourse, knowledge flows freely, enriching both parties. Conversely, those grappling with financial woes often shy away from discussion centered on money, deeming it impolite. Even amidst their struggles, I glean valuable insights, discerning what pitfalls to avoid. Step 4 advocates for mastery of one formula before embracing another. Just as a baker follows a recipe to conjure bread, so too must one adhere to a financial blueprint. Money, often likened to dough, demands a formulaic approach. For many, the default formula, working for money, reigns supreme. Each day, legions rise to earn, pay bills, and invest in mutual funds, perpetuating this cycle ad infinitum. Should dissatisfaction or stagnation set in, the remedy lies in altering this formula. In my youth, I embarked on a journey to acquire an alternative formula. A weekend class on real estate foreclosures proved transformative, endowing me with a new paradigm. The ensuing challenge? Transmuting knowledge into action, a hurdle many falter at. Over 3 years, while employed at Xerox, I dedicated my spare moments to mastering the art of foreclosure acquisitions. The fruits of this labor, several $1 million, validate the efficacy of this formula. Yet, in a landscape teeming with competitors, it's become sluggish and saturated. Thus, armed with the wisdom gleaned from prior triumphs, I venture forth in pursuit of novel formulas. Though not all classes yield direct application, each imparts a nugget of wisdom, enriching my financial acumen. Step 5 emphasizes the paramount importance of self-discipline, encapsulated in the principle of paying yourself first. Without self-control, attempts to accumulate wealth are futile. It's akin to building a house on sand. This concept is exemplified by the common scenario of lottery winners squandering their fortunes due to a lack of restraint. Moreover, the absence of self-discipline often leads individuals to immediately indulge in luxuries upon receiving a raise or windfall, sabotaging their financial stability. Mastering this step is arduous yet indispensable. It distinguishes the affluent from the financially unstable. I do not take the saying, pay yourself first, lightly, as espoused in George Clayson's seminal work, The Richest Man in Babylon. Despite its widespread recognition, adherence to this principle remains elusive for many. While the notion of prioritizing personal finances is endorsed, in practice, individuals often prioritize expenses over savings. Contrary to conventional wisdom, paying oneself first doesn't entail neglecting financial obligations. Rather, it advocates allocating resources to personal wealth before meeting other expenses. By adhering to this principle, I've sidestepped substantial debt, fostering financial prudence without compromising responsibility. To facilitate paying oneself first, it's imperative to minimize debt and maintain frugality. This approach cultivates a robust financial foundation, enabling strategic investments in assets before succumbing to the allure of extravagant purchases. Instead of depleting savings during lean times, leverage pressure as a catalyst for innovation and increased earnings. Moving forward, Step 6 underscores the significance of remunerating professionals adequately, recognizing that their expertise directly impacts financial gains. By investing in competent advisors, I harness their insights to bolster my financial portfolio. Similarly, Step 7 advocates for a shrewd approach to investments, prioritizing swift returns and leveraging opportunities to acquire assets without depleting initial capital. Step number 8 advises prioritizing assets over indulgences. As I mentioned earlier, mastering self-discipline is crucial for financial success. Without it, attempts to build wealth may falter. While generating cash flow through assets seems straightforward, the real challenge lies in managing finances with resolve amidst various temptations. In today's consumer-driven society, it's effortless to succumb to immediate gratification by overspending. Weak discipline often leads money into the abyss of unnecessary expenses, perpetuating financial struggles. Although I appreciate luxuries like anyone else, my approach differs. While some resort to credit for indulgences, I utilize the income from my assets to fulfill such desires. For instance, when I desired a Porsche, it would have been simple to secure a loan. Instead, I focused on bolstering my asset portfolio. I channel my consumption desires to fuel my financial acumen and investment ventures. Regrettably, contemporary society emphasizes borrowing for instant gratification over wealth creation, a habit detrimental in the long run. Remember, the easy path often leads to hardship, while the tougher journey paves the way for ease. Training oneself and loved ones early on in financial mastery is paramount. Money holds immense power, and without sufficient financial intelligence, it can easily overpower individuals, leading to a lifetime of servitude to wealth. Step number 9 underscores the importance of heroes in shaping aspirations and learning. As a child, I idolized sports icons like Willie Mays and Hank Aaron, emulating their every move on the field. As I grew older, my admiration extended to financial moguls like Warren Buffett and Donald Trump, studying their strategies and philosophies. Heroes not only inspire, but also exemplify the art of making challenges appear surmountable. By emulating their approach, we instill confidence in our own abilities to achieve similar feats. Step number 10 stresses the significance of giving back and sharing knowledge. Drawing from my rich dad's teachings, I learned the value of generosity in both wealth and wisdom. Contrary to my educated dad who hesitated to give, my rich dad emphasized the principle of giving first, believing it to be the catalyst for abundance. Whether it's money, kindness, or expertise, the principle of reciprocity holds true. What you give generously tends to return manifold. By being generous with our resources, we not only attract prosperity, but also align ourselves with the benevolent forces of the universe. In essence, by prioritizing assets over indulgences, seeking inspiration from heroes, and embracing generosity, one can navigate the path to financial mastery with greater ease and abundance. Take action. Each of you possesses two invaluable assets, your mind and your time. It's entirely up to you how you use them. Every dollar that comes into your hands offers you a choice about your future. Spend it unwisely, and you opt for poverty. Spend it on liabilities, and you settle into the middle class. But choose to invest in your knowledge and learn to acquire assets, and you are choosing a path toward wealth. The decision is yours, every single day, with every dollar you spend. You determine whether to be wealthy, poor, or middle class. Share this knowledge with your children, and you prepare them for the world that awaits them. Their future, like yours, hinges on the choices you make today, not tomorrow.